When struggling single father David saw a desperate mother begging for food with her 2 children outside the grocery store, he shared his last $5 despite having nothing himself. But when he discovered who she really was, the truth would shatter his heart and change everything he thought he knew about love, loss, and second chances. David Parker stood in the checkout line at the discount grocery store, counting and recounting the crumpled bills in his worn wallet. $5.37. That was all he had until his next paycheck in 3 days. In his cart sat a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a gallon of milk. Dinner for him and his 6-year-old son Tommy for the next few days. It had been 8 months since his wife Lisa died in a car accident, leaving him to raise their son alone. David worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and doing construction during the day, but it was never enough. The medical bills from Lisa's final weeks in the hospital had destroyed their savings, and the grief had made it hard to focus on anything except getting through each day. "Daddy, are we getting cereal?" Tommy asked, tugging on David's jacket. His son's thin frame and 2 big clothes made David's chest tighten with guilt. "Not today, buddy," David said softly. "But we have peanut butter sandwiches. Your favorite." Tommy nodded without complaining, though David could see the disappointment in his eyes. At 6 years old, Tommy had learned not to ask for things they couldn't afford. It broke David's heart that his son had to grow up so fast. As they left the store, David noticed a woman sitting on the curb near the parking lot with 2 small children. The woman looked exhausted, her clothes dirty and worn. A cardboard sign in front of her read, "Please help. Hungry kids. God bless." The 2 children, a boy about Tommy's age and a girl who couldn't be more than 4, sat quietly beside their mother. They weren't crying or making noise, just staring with the hollow look that David recognized from his own mirror some mornings. David's first instinct was to keep walking. He had his own problems, his own hungry child to feed. But something about the scene stopped him. Maybe it was the way the little girl held a torn stuffed animal, or how the boy kept looking at the grocery store windows with longing eyes. Tommy had stopped too, staring at the other children. "Daddy, why are they sitting outside?" "They don't have a home right now, son," David explained quietly. "Like when we almost didn't have our apartment?" David winced. 2 months ago, they had been 3 days away from eviction before David managed to borrow money from his brother. Something like that. Tommy walked closer to the family. "Hi," he said to the other boy. "I'm Tommy. What's your name?" The boy looked up at his mother, who nodded weakly. "I'm Alex," he whispered. "This is my sister Mia." "Are you hungry?" Tommy asked with the directness only children possess. Alex nodded, and David saw tears forming in the mother's eyes. She looked young, maybe late 20s, with auburn hair that might have been beautiful if it wasn't matted and dirty. "I'm sorry," she said to David. "I don't usually let them talk to strangers. We're having a really hard time right now." David knelt down to her level. "What's your name?" "Sarah," she said quietly. "Sarah Williams. These are my children, Alex and Mia." "How long have you been out here?" 3 days, Sarah admitted, her voice breaking. "We lost our apartment. I lost my job when Mia got sick and I missed too much work. We've been staying in my car, but it broke down yesterday." David looked at the children again. Mia was sucking her thumb, her eyes unfocused with hunger and exhaustion. Alex was trying to be brave like his mother, but David could see he was scared. Without thinking, David reached into his wallet and pulled out the $5 bill. It was all the money he had, but looking at these children he couldn't walk away. "Here," he said, offering the money to Sarah. "It's not much, but maybe you can get the kids something to eat." Sarah stared at the money, then at David. "I can't take this. You have your own child to feed." "Please," David insisted. "My son and I will be fine." Tommy, who had been watching the exchange, suddenly spoke up. "Mommy always said we should help people when they're sad." David's throat tightened at the mention of Lisa. She had always been the generous one, the one who saw the good in everyone and insisted they help when they could, even when they couldn't really afford it. Sarah took the money with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "God bless you." As David and Tommy walked to their car, Tommy looked back at the family. "Daddy, can they come have dinner with us?" "Tommy, we don't have enough food for everyone." "But you gave them our food money," Tommy pointed out with child logic. "And Mommy always said our house should be full of love." David stopped walking. His son was right. Lisa had always welcomed people into their home, no matter how little they had. It's what she would have done. He turned around and walked back to Sarah. "Would you and your children like to come home with us? We don't have much, but we can share what we have." Sarah looked up at him in shock. "You don't even know us. I could be anyone." You're a mother trying to feed her children, David said simply. That's all I need to know. An hour later, Sarah and her children were sitting at David's small kitchen table while he made peanut butter sandwiches for everyone. The apartment was tiny and sparse, but it was clean and warm. Sarah kept looking around as if she couldn't believe she was indoors. When did you last eat? David asked as he divided the sandwiches into smaller portions to make sure everyone got something. The kids had some crackers yesterday, Sarah said quietly. I haven't eaten in 2 days. David's anger flared not at Sarah, but at a world that would let children go hungry. He opened his last can of soup and heated it up, dividing it among 5 bowls. As they ate, the children began to relax. Tommy showed Alex his toy cars, and Mia fell asleep in Sarah's arms. For the first time in days, Sarah's face looked peaceful. I need to tell you something, Sarah said after the children were settled in the living room. I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like I know you from somewhere. David studied her face. There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't place it. What's your last name again? Sarah asked. Parker. David Parker. Sarah's face went white. David Parker. You're married to Lisa Parker? David's blood ran cold. How do you know my wife's name? Because, Sarah said, tears starting to flow, Lisa saved my life 2 years ago. David stared at her, confusion and dread filling his stomach. What are you talking about? Sarah wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. 2 years ago I was in a very dark place. My husband had left me with the kids, I lost my job and I was about to lose my apartment. I was standing on the bridge downtown thinking about ending it all. David's heart started pounding. He remembered that night. Lisa had been late coming home from her volunteer work at the crisis center. Lisa found me there, Sarah continued. She talked to me for 2 hours. She convinced me that my children needed me, that things could get better. She gave me the number for social services, helped me apply for assistance, and even gave me money for groceries. David felt dizzy. Lisa never told me about this. She made me promise not to give up. She said she had a little boy at home who needed his mommy to come back safe, and that my children needed the same thing. She saved my life that night, David. Literally saved my life. Tears were streaming down David's face now. She never said anything. She just came home late and said she had helped someone in crisis. That was the night she decided to become a nurse. She what? Sarah gasped. After that night, Lisa said she wanted to help people professionally. She went back to school to become a nurse. She graduated 6 months before the accident. Sarah covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God. She became a nurse because of me? She said someone had reminded her that helping people was her calling, David whispered. They sat in stunned silence for several minutes, processing the impossible coincidence. Finally, Sarah spoke again. David, there's more. After Lisa helped me that night, I got back on my feet. I found a job, kept my apartment, and things were good for almost 2 years. But then Mia got really sick and I missed so much work that I lost my job. The medical bills started piling up. I tried everything, but we ended up homeless anyway. What was wrong with Mia? Sarah's voice broke. She had pneumonia. For 3 weeks I thought I was going to lose her. The doctor said if I had waited even one more day to bring her in, she might have died. David felt like he was drowning. What hospital? St. Mary's. David's world tilted. Lisa worked at St. Mary's. She was in the pediatric unit. Sarah stared at him. What are you saying? Lisa was working with sick children in her final months. She talked about her patients all the time, but she never mentioned names because of privacy rules. But there was one little girl she was especially worried about. A little girl with pneumonia whose mother was scared and alone. They looked across the room at Mia, who was sleeping peacefully on the couch. It's not possible, Sarah whispered. But David was already getting up, walking to the small desk in the corner where he kept Lisa's things. He pulled out her journal, the one she wrote in during her final months. Lisa wrote about her patients, he said, flipping through pages. She never used names, but, here. He read aloud, there's a little girl in room 304 who reminds me of Tommy when he was that age. Her mother sits by her bed every night, holding her hand and singing lullabies. The mother is so scared and I can see she's struggling financially. I wish I could do more to help. I gave her some meal vouchers and information about assistance programs, but I can see she's drowning. She reminds me of someone I helped once before. I pray this little girl gets better. Her mother loves her so much. Sarah was sobbing now. Room 304. That was Mia's room. Lisa was our nurse. She was our nurse, and I never knew it was the same Lisa who saved my life on the bridge. David sank into his chair, overwhelmed. She helped you twice. Once when you wanted to give up and once when Mia was sick. She never recognized me, Sarah said through her tears. I looked so different then. I had gained weight, my hair was different. And I was so focused on Mia that I barely looked at the nurses' faces. But she was there. She was taking care of my baby. David thought about Lisa's final weeks, how she had worked extra shifts to pay for her own medical treatments, how she had worried about her patients even as she was dying. She loved her job, David said softly. Even when she was sick, she wanted to go to work. She said her patients needed her. David, Sarah said quietly, I need to tell you something else. The day Lisa died, I was in the hospital with Mia for a follow-up appointment. I saw the nurses crying and I heard them talking about losing one of their own. They said she was young, had a little boy, and that she had died in a car accident on her way to work. David looked up sharply. You were there that day? I wanted to ask who it was to see if there was anything I could do for the family, but Mia had a fever and I had to leave. I've thought about it so many times since then, wondering who that nurse was and if her family was okay. The room fell silent except for the sound of their crying. The cosmic cruelty of it was overwhelming. Lisa had saved Sarah's life twice, helped her daughter recover, and now, 8 months after Lisa's death, Sarah and her children were homeless and hungry while Lisa's husband and son struggled with their own poverty and grief. I can't believe this, David said finally. All this time I've been angry at God for taking Lisa away. I couldn't understand why someone so good had to die. But she's still helping people even now. She brought you to me. Sarah shook her head. I don't deserve this kindness. Not after Lisa did so much for me. That's exactly why you deserve it, David said firmly. Lisa would want me to help you. She would be furious if she knew I let you and your children stay on the street. Tommy appeared in the doorway, having overheard some of the conversation. Daddy, are you crying because you miss Mommy? David wiped his eyes and pulled his son close. Yes, buddy. But also because Mommy is still helping people, even though she's in heaven. Is she helping Alex and Mia? Yes, son. She is. That night, David gave Sarah and her children his bedroom while he and Tommy slept on the living room floor. As he lay awake staring at the ceiling, David felt something he hadn't experienced since Lisa's death: purpose. The next morning he called in sick to both his jobs. Instead, he spent the day helping Sarah navigate the social services system, apply for assistance programs and look for work. He used his connections from construction to find her a job with a cleaning company that offered flexible hours for single mothers. By the end of the week, Sarah had found a small apartment she could afford with her new job and the assistance she qualified for. It wasn't much, but it was safe and clean with a small yard where the children could play. On moving day, as David helped carry their few belongings into the new place, Sarah pulled him aside. I don't know how to thank you, she said. You've given us our lives back. Lisa gave you your life back, David replied. I'm just finishing what she started. David, I want you to know something. That night on the bridge, when Lisa saved me, she told me that sometimes God puts people in our path for a reason. She said that helping each other is how we heal our own broken hearts. David thought about the past week, how focusing on Sarah's family had given him the first real purpose he'd felt since Lisa died. She was right. She also said something else, Sarah continued. She said that love doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes form. It becomes the kindness we show to others, the way we care for people who need help. David felt tears in his eyes again. That sounds like something Lisa would say. 6 months later, David and Tommy were doing much better. Helping Sarah had connected David with other families in need, and he had started volunteering at the homeless shelter where Lisa used to work. The extra purpose had helped him focus at his jobs, and he had even gotten a promotion at the construction company. Sarah's children were thriving in their new home. Mia was healthy and happy, and Alex had become Tommy's best friend. The two families spent most weekends together, sharing meals and making memories. One evening, as they sat in Sarah's small living room watching the children play, Sarah showed David something she had been working on. I've been writing letters to Lisa, she said, showing him a notebook filled with her handwriting. I know she's gone, but I wanted her to know how her kindness changed everything. How saving my life that night led to saving my children's lives too. David read one of the letters. Dear Lisa, I wish I could tell you in person what your kindness meant to me and my children. You saved my life twice and now you're still saving us through David and Tommy. You taught me that love is stronger than death, that kindness creates a ripple effect that goes on forever. My children will grow up knowing that there are good people in the world because of you. I promise to pass on your kindness to others for the rest of my life. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for showing me that tomorrow can be better than today. David wiped his eyes. She would love this. I want to do something more, Sarah said. I want to start a foundation in Lisa's name. Something that helps families who are struggling, especially single parents who are dealing with medical crises. David stared at her. That's perfect. Lisa always said that helping one person might not change the world, but it could change the world for that one person. A year later, the Lisa Parker Foundation had helped over 100 families avoid homelessness due to medical bills. Sarah ran the foundation while working part-time, and David volunteered in the evenings after his construction job. At the foundation's first annual fundraiser, David stood at the podium looking out at a room full of people who had come to honor his wife's memory. Lisa always believed that we're all connected, he said. That our kindness to one person creates a chain reaction that touches lives we'll never even know about. She saved Sarah's life on a bridge 2 years ago, not knowing that Sarah would need her help again when her daughter was sick. She couldn't have known that her kindness would eventually save my son and me from our own darkness after she was gone. He paused, looking at Sarah and her children sitting in the front row next to Tommy. Lisa taught us that love doesn't end with death. It multiplies. Every time we help someone in need, every time we choose kindness over indifference, we're continuing her legacy. Tonight, we're not just raising money for families in crisis. We're proving that one person's love can change the world, one family at a time. As applause filled the room, David saw something that took his breath away. In the back of the room, a young mother was crying as she held a small donation envelope. Beside her stood 2 children who looked tired and scared. After his speech, David approached the woman. Are you okay? I just lost my job, she whispered. My son needs surgery and I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. Someone told me about your foundation. I don't have much to donate, but I wanted to give something. David gently pushed her envelope back toward her. Keep your money. But let us help you. As he guided the family towards Sarah to begin the application process, David felt Lisa's presence so strongly it was almost physical. This was how it would always be. One person helping another, love creating more love, kindness multiplying in ways they could never fully understand. That night, as David tucked Tommy into bed, his son asked, Daddy, do you think Mommy knows about all the people we're helping? David smiled, thinking about the impossible chain of events that had brought their family together with Sarah's, how Lisa's love continued to change lives even after she was gone. I think, buddy, that Mommy planned it this way from the very beginning.